Welcome to the Grateful Living podcast. I'm your host, Talisha Meyer. I'm a published author, writer, holistic massage practitioner, empath, intuitive, and light worker. Join us for this week's episode. Hi, beautiful souls. Today's episode is one that I have kind of been putting off recording, because it feels like the kind of conversation that closes a chapter and opens another. This year has been heavy in parts, emotional, overwhelming, stretching, humbling, but it's also been a year of breakthroughs, alignments, taking risks and choosing myself in ways I have never done before. I want to talk honestly about the things I walked away from, the strength it took, the relationship patterns I had to break, the moments that brought me to my knees, and the things I'm so proud of myself for. And at the end, I'll share some reflective questions so that you can start closing your own year with intention, honesty, and compassion. So let's get into it. This year didn't ease me in gently, it just threw me in. January was by far one of the most hardest and chaotic months. One of my loved ones was battling cancer, and I was trying to plan my Women's Wellness Day, and in the midst of that, my dad became really unwell and had 2 strokes. There was no space for pause, no space to fall apart, no space to process. I was juggling caring for my dad, worrying about my loved one, planning my event, working my sales role, coaching, contributing to my office, holding my team, and being the strong one at home. It was one of the seasons where your brain says, I don't know how I'm doing all this, but your spirit says, we have no choice but to keep going. It for sure was the kind of year that forced me to grow, even when I was exhausted. So there's something that happens when life gets this heavy. It shows you what's real. It shows you what matters, who matters, and what is no longer aligned with who you're becoming. And that's what happened with my sales role. Even though I loved it and I loved the people, I realised I was outgrowing that environment. I didn't feel connected to it as much anymore. And I was being drawn back into my healing work, back into the mind-body-spirit connection. There's something about watching the people you love and care about the most suffer with their health that really has you questioning things. And for sure, it had me reflecting on some of my choices and thinking life is too short to put my dreams on hold, to put my purpose on hold. I've actually learned enough. I can serve right now as who I am. Because before, when I went into the sales role, I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel confident enough to lead, to hold space for women. But by the time I was contemplating leaving, I'd already gained all the skills that I needed. And I'm so thankful for the sales role for teaching me those things. But it came to a point where I realised I wanted a life that was meaningful and purpose-driven, not just productive. So I walked away. And even though it was the right decision, endings still feel like grief. You grieve who you were, who you thought you'd become, the version of you that built a life in that space. I grieved relationships. It was tough. But choosing yourself means letting go of things, people, places that no longer align, no matter how difficult that might be. This is the part I want to speak honestly about, because I know so many women listening will relate. This year taught me the hardest but most empowering lesson in love. You can love someone deeply and still walk away if they're not treating you how you deserve. I spent almost 2 years, if we're adding everything up, in this back and forth connection with someone I deeply, deeply cared about. This connection was real, the feelings were real, the love was real, but so was the pain, the inconsistency, the uncertainty, the way that my nervous system never fully relaxed around him. It was a connection that had so much potential, but potential isn't enough. Chemistry isn't enough. History isn't enough. Being deeply connected to someone does not mean they're good for you. And it definitely doesn't mean they're willing to show up in the way that you need. And walking away from him took so much courage that I didn't even know I had. Not because love wasn't there, it was. well, I deeply cared about him, but because I loved myself more. And then I opened up again and I gave someone new a chance and I let myself feel again, hope again, allow again. And that connection was obviously a lot shorter, which was kind of its own beautiful thing. And he taught me many different lessons, but he also didn't treat me how I deserved. And there were things I overlooked, minimalized, because I liked him. But liking someone is not a reason to betray your own standards. And so this year taught me painfully but beautifully that I will not shrink myself for love ever again. I will not accept less than I deserve. And if someone wants to be in my life, they need to meet me with consistency, respect, effort, and emotional safety. No more half love, no more almost, no more nearly theirs, no more breadcrumbing or gaslighting, no more versions of love that leave me overthinking, unsettled, or carrying the emotional load. This was the year I said, if you don't treat me right, you don't get access to me. I love myself too much now. And that is growth, that is healing, that is self-worth in action. Now, even though this year was full of endings, it was also full of beautiful beginnings. And I want to name them because it's important to acknowledge our wins, especially in hard seasons. This year, I hosted my first ever Women's Wellness Day, which was such a powerful, magical day for women. I enjoyed every part of it, and it felt like a triumph in itself to go against everything that I was facing and to continue to host regardless of all of the personal circumstances I was experiencing. I also went full-time with my business. I took a massive leap that took courage. I joined another clinic, expanding my work and my reach. I launched my affirmation deck, created my beautiful sprays, held in-person events, did my first ever stall, grew my holistic massage business, deepened my offerings, and continued to coach and support women through healing. I also invested in myself through coaching, and I showed up consistently online, even while holding so much emotionally this year. This was a year where my business grew because I grew. My offers expanded because I expanded. My confidence shifted because I stopped abandoning myself. It wasn't a light year, but it was definitely a transformational one. It made me stronger, softer, wiser, clearer, more aligned, and more confident in myself. So here's what this year taught me. If someone doesn't treat you well, it's not your job to fix them. It's your job to walk away. Consistency is a love language. Alignment matters more than comfort. The right people bring peace, not anxiety. You can survive far more than you think you can. Your worth is not up for negotiation. And endings are not failures, they're redirections. So here are some questions to help you close your year with honesty and compassion. What challenged you the most this year? And what did it teach you about your own strength? What were your biggest emotional, spiritual, or personal wins? Who did you outgrow and why? What relationship taught you the most about yourself? Where did you abandon yourself? And where did you honor yourself? What patterns or people are you ready to leave behind? What boundaries protected your peace this year? What parts of you blossomed? What do you want to take with you into the next year? And what do you want to release? Thank you for listening to this really intimate episode. Thank you for letting me be honest and vulnerable with you. And thank you for walking this journey of healing, growth, and self-worth with me. I hope this episode reminds you that you are strong, deserving, powerful, and capable of creating a life that feels aligned with who you really are. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, be kind with yourself. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at @the_grateful_living.